Hi everybody. I'm recording this video today so that I can talk a little bit about some of the responses that I've been getting to my video or my initial response about the Johannes Meserly sentencing regarding Oscar Grant. Now, obviously the position I took was upset and against the leniency of the sentencing, and I have a lot of people who are making this be a race issue. Now, although I do agree that this does have something to do with race, I think that the severity of the crime relate and the sentencing are issues that when separated from race, you can see the injustice there. And this is what I'm discussing today in this video. So basically, the fact that a lot of people are racist or, have some pretty extreme viewpoints are basically using race to distort the facts of the case here. Basically, I had one person comment a video and say that there are black men who have been constantly been raping and robbing and basically, like, I guess, pirates, raping, robbing, and pillaging society, and thus Oscar Grant was a criminal and deserved to die. Now, I think that that type of vigilante justice and the fact that it is supported by society is extremely terrifying because it should not have happened, regardless of race. Now, by your own admission, though, with that very same argument, I could say that black people should be able to kill all white people because of slavery and the segregation that happened afterwards and the continued racism and segregation that goes on in today's society. However, I am not an advocate of such. And so I say that really that argumentation is really just a bad argument. Just because people are black does not mean that they deserve to have their rights as American citizens violated. Just because they are criminals does not mean that the due process of the law should be totally circumvented and that a police officer may use his own vigilante form of justice and kill you or execute you in front of masses. And it can be televised and it can be put on the internet for everyone to see, but it will still be a problem. This is something that I really disagree with. Now we can't, so basically that argument falls off, or because otherwise we'll basically have an eye for an eye and then everybody will be blind. So really somebody has to take the position and be the bigger person and pay attention to the crime that was committed, minus the races here of the individuals that were involved. If you take away the race and this is a white officer and it's a white victim, then this has become very unacceptable, period, because he should not have killed him. He should not have used his weapon when he said he was intentionally trying to use his taser. And this would have been more of an understandable mistake if it was a layperson who had not had extensive training using these types of weapons. However, that is not the case. And so the injustice here, whether it been, like I said, whether it's a white officer and a white victim, a black officer and a black victim, the injustice is still there. The fact that this is a white officer and a black victim makes this situation escalate. And the fact that the courts have basically supported the decision to allow this type of vigilante justice to survive in today's society is the sad part, and the ice cream on the cake as far as the injustices involving the Oscar Grant situation are incurred. Are considered. Anyway, so the injustice would lead to an uprising of people. And you see it empirically now. You see how downtown Oakland, there's a lot of looting and there's a lot of rioting. Now, although a lot of people that do come to do the more negative protesting are not even from Oakland, they come from neighboring counties with opportunistic ideals, and they're trying to come up in the midst of this chaos. However, a lot of people were civilly protesting and participating in civil disobedience, which is also my right as an American citizen. In one way, kind of like the filibuster that allows the people not to be suppressed by the government, and where we have a way to fight back without actually fighting and increasing the loss of lives and increasing the amount of injustice being subjected upon everyone in society. So basically, when we see here that the courts are supporting this, then you're going to have people that are going to riot. You're going to have people where their faith is dwindling in the justice system. So there's going to be a lack of phone calls to the police department, because unless we just want them to come kill a black person or to come beat them, there's actually going to be no other form of justice. There is no due process of the law. And at that point, it really doesn't matter. What the race is, the injustice still stands. And this is where people get confused. Oh, because he was white and because he was black, this is a problem. No, because this was murder, and it was a blatant murder that has been enabled by the just judicial system, and has been escalated in society because of the race. Now, those are issues, but people are losing focus on the fact that this is an injustice regardless of race. Now, what happened was and is a tragedy for the family of Oscar Grant, and everyone, whoever has caught wind of this situation, should offer their condolences. Now, although I do understand it takes a really big person to be able to look past your cultural differences and past racial and social stereotyping, and therefore, like some of you, this message will completely be lost upon you, and there's nothing that I can do about that. However, um, to those of you who are able to look at the situation for what it is and know that more should have been done by the judicial system regardless of race, based on the severity of the crime and the loss of a life of someone's family member, you know that this is wrong, and the race argument only escalates the injustice being done. But this is not about race, and so all the biblical quotes, you can kind of drop those, because these all drift off into different arguments that have absolutely nothing to do with the fact that it was an injustice and someone has been murdered, and 2 years for the loss of a life of someone is not acceptable in any shape, way, or form. And us as an American society should be shamed of ourselves and the fact that we are allowing this to slip by without any form of with any form of like fighting back in our government, in our society. Like, we should be protesting, we should be being blatantly civil disobedient in respect, in the hopes that people will pay attention to our arguments. But the only time you ever really hear anything is when there's going to be a protest close to a court date. However, the it seems like the people are also dropping the arguments here, and they're allowing the government, they're allowing the judicial system to do exactly whatever they want. And although it's like there is some outrage, not enough is being expressed. There is not a new Martin Luther King, there is not a new Malcolm X, there is not a new Rosa Parks. There is not anybody here in society today that is really willing to sacrifice and to make the changes that need to be made in today's society, so that we will not see another Johannes Meserly Oscar Grant situation, so that we will not see another Rodney King situation, so that we will not see another situation like the law in Arizona that's been passed and targeting immigrants. We should be making steps in society, taking steps in society to where we would no longer run a risk. And now at this point, I don't even wonder what's going to happen next, because obviously we see that anything will happen. However, I do wonder who it's going to happen to next, simply because it's already happened to African Americans. It's already happened to Japanese people. It's happened to Chinese people trying to assimilate into America. It's happened globally. We see it right now with people hating on each other and using race as a justification for the injustices that are happening. And at that point, people need to like really step back and clearing off their little moral lenses, because we are doing things based on the wrong justification, and you can justify any form of evil if you want to, but that still does not make it right in society. And people, before you start leaving comments that are very racist, I beg you to please look at the actual injustice before you start to say, oh, well, he was black and he had a criminal record and thus he deserved to be shot in cold blood on a BART platform. Pay attention to the arguments before you say anything, because the injustice here, regardless of race, is still wrong, and there still needs to be something else except for 2 years with out in 72 days done about it. Thanks for listening.